Let's take a few minutes this morning and talk about care. Care in order to produce the kind of product that you are interested in producing. Anybody that's known me for any length of time much knows that I like to dabble, at least, out in the garden, in the flowers in particular. And I've been enjoying the opportunity to share in roses, a member of the American Rose Association and so on, down through the last several years. But one of the things about roses is that they require constant care. It's amazing to me how that one early evening you can go out and look at your roses and smile and talk to them a little bit and enjoy their fragrance and so on. But the next day, if you're not careful, here come spots and aphids and so on. It's just something that you just have to learn how to deal with. If you're going to get the kind of product that you really enjoy, it requires that you pay real close attention. Isn't that true in all of life? If life is going to be what we want it to be, what we desire it to be, then it's something that requires of us that we be mindful, that we be careful, that we learn how and know how to really watch over and take care of life so that it will produce what we want it to produce. Roses, you see, in order to be out there in their full glory and so on, that we really enjoy a great deal. It isn't what's on the outside that really matters, it's what is going on way down inside. It's how that rose has been properly planted and cared for. It's what we cannot see and do not see that produces what we do see and what we do enjoy. So much of life is that way. We oftentimes, in our human approach to things, look at and marvel in and relish what we see on the outside, the exterior, the rose bud coming on, the lush and green leaves and stems and so on. But all of that is only possible because the plant itself was properly planted and properly cared for and watered. And in order to avoid a lot of problems, and then, at least in my case, I use a systemic fertilizer and control of aphids and dark spots and so on. And so life is very much that way itself. It's what's going on down deep inside that really matters, not so much what is out there in full beauty and full exposure. The other day, for instance, I was out in the garden area. I have guava plants, and I have made a hedge out of my guavas, and I enjoy working with them, and the flower that the guava produces, red and white and so on, very delicate and is totally and entirely an edible flower. A lot of people use the flower from a guava and add it to their salads and so on, and it makes for a very enjoyable addition. But I was noticing the other day when I was there that it was time to trim them back a little bit. Like the scripture says, He will prune us, cut us back a little bit, so that we can produce again and more. The same thing is true with roses. Unless you cut them back and unless you know where to cut and how to cut, you'll not be able to have that product that you're really looking for. So it takes a little bit of understanding and awareness of what you're doing and what you want if you're going to have the success that you're looking for. And when it came to trimming back the hedge, I suddenly realized, or the Spirit of God prompted me to understand that when you're trimming back a hedge, behold, what you're trimming back is always new growth. Is it that we don't want new growth on the hedge? Oh no, we certainly do want new growth. But then why are you always cutting it back? It isn't that we want to retard or diminish what is going on, but what we want to do is to make sure that the hedge grows the way we want it to. And so we take care to cut it back and to prune it back so that it will produce as we want it to, so that it will grow the way we want it to grow. All of you, I'm sure, are familiar with what they call topiaries, I guess, that they literally cut and shape. I know Disney cuts and shapes theirs into Disney characters so that it will produce the way you want it to. I'm sure that God is exactly that same way as He operates and functions in our lives. Every once in a while we will find ourselves being pruned, being cut back. Things happen so that we all of a sudden begin to feel as though something very difficult or strange is taking place. But the Scripture tells us that's going to happen. And He said, you know, don't think it's strange that all of a sudden these things begin to happen. Is it that God is punishing us? No. Is it because He's angry with us? No. As I am not angry with the plant or the hedge or the rose, but cutting it so that it will grow the way we want it to grow and how we want it to grow. And God does the same thing with our lives. We cannot sometimes understand why the pruning shear in our lives. Why are we being dealt with the way we are? But the thing that is really important is to know and understand that we are oftentimes cut back. We are oftentimes reduced a little. I must be reduced so that He can be increased. And so that's what is taking place in our lives. We, like the hedge, are cut back. New growth oftentimes taken right off the top. Not because we're mad at it, not because we don't want it to grow, but because we want it to grow the way we want it to grow, not just any old way. God is dealing with us the same way. He wants to bring your life into the place where we better fit, most adequately fit into His plans and His purposes for our lives. And so snip here and snip there, cut a little bit, cut us back, cut that rose stem back. Every year take off about 1/3 so that it will, when it's time, once again, it will flourish and it will grow and produce what we want it to produce. Thanks for listening again today, and make sure that you're back here again for our next video in the importance of being cared for so that we might produce even more. Thanks. I'll see you next time.